Lawful, chaotic, good, evil. Long ago, the 9 alignments lived together in conflict. Then, honestly, nothing changed when the internet was made. Only the loading crew and this weirdo named Stuart really cared about them anymore, and when he started posting on YouTube, the views vanished. Several months passed and some new subscribers started appearing, and although his nitpicking skills are okay, he has a lot to learn before he's ready to examine anyone. But I believe Stuart can make a video.
But before we get into the video, it's ya boy.
Don't take Dankula's line!
This video is brought to you by Raid Shadow Legends, a free-to-play turn-based MMORPG that is available on both mobile and PC. If you've been hesitant to try out Raid, now's the time to join with their new Faction Wars campaign, where you can take your favorite faction and pit them in an epic raid against other factions. My favorite are the Dark Elves, because I'm a man of culture. Remember to always head pat your elf girls. Team her up with the starting Dark Elf Kale, and you've got a real winning team. This boyo is heckin' strong and has powerful poison damage. Stack him with some lifesteal gear and he's actually nigh unkillable. Challenge yourself to the edge in the ongoing tournaments, compete against the entire raid community while fighting in the Spider's Den, Ice Golem's Peak, or the Notorious Dragon in order to win some awesome rewards and rare artifacts. Click on the link in the video description if you're new and you'll get 100,000 silver and a free champion, Hexweaver. Oh, and look at that, she's a Dark Elf, heck yeah! There are tons of things to collect in battle. This offer is only available to new players and for the next 30 days. Remember to always head pat your favorite waifu and install Raid Shadow Legends now using the links in the description. Howdy friendos, my name is Stuart and welcome to the part of the video where we take a look at pop culture characters and determine what alignment they are in Dungeons & Dragons based on the parameters we established in our Shrek video. Today we'll be looking at one of the most requested characters we've ever been asked to look at, and one that I teased last year during my Kylo and Rey video, Zuko, the Banished Prince from Avatar: The Last Airbender. So you guys know by now that I am a man that likes to confirm my biases right away, and today is no different. Not only are we looking at a series that I consider to be high art, and no, that is not any sort of hyperbole or exaggeration, Avatar is that good. Today we'll be looking at one of the greatest characters ever to be put into fiction itself, whose character arc was so natural and so moving, I consider him to be the best character in the series. But this video is already going to be long enough, so I'll try to prevent ranting, rambling, and fanboying all over the series more than what I'm already going to be ending up doing. Just saying, expect a lot of these over this video. But just to let you guys know, Avatar: The Last Airbender is one of my favorite series ever. I binge watch it every year from start to finish, and now that the series is on Netflix, it's finally given me the perfect opportunity to talk about it. Now, my alignment series is one where I pride myself in looking at a character throughout their entire life and going through their entire fictional history to give you a complete picturesque view of every moment of their life. But if I did that for Zuko, this video would probably be literally over an hour long, so we need to pick a starting point and a solid ending point, because most people watching this video are probably aware about the Avatar cartoon, and some of you are probably aware that there were some Avatar comics, and these are all pretty much canon. However, there are no less than 4 trilogy of Avatar comics that are canon to the series that feature Zuko. And while they're all amazing, they have several hundred pages each, and there's no feasible way I could get these all read, written out and scripted, record said script, and then edit it into a decent video within a week. So instead, I will only be counting the events of the original Avatar: The Last Airbender cartoon. However, if this video gets over 3,000 likes, I'll do the comics and even add some of the moments from Legend of Korra, even though I don't think they're that particularly important. And I'll do that at a later date. I'll even get some voice actors to read it so that we don't get a repeat of my cringy attempts like in the Kefka video. Although we can all agree that JoJo's reading was perfect, and everyone knows that.
Well, go on! There will always be people and dreams!
Anyway, let's get to our character. Zuko was the firstborn child of Fire Lord Ozai and his wife Princess Ursa. Ever since he was young, he had a strong sense of justice, fending for the weak. That sense of empathy made him the target for his power-hungry sister and father, who both looked down on him for being less talented and less cutthroat. Zuko's life takes place over the 100-Year War, and during year 94 AG, his cousin Lu Ten died during the siege of Ba Sing Se under the command of his uncle Iroh, the current heir to the throne, and coincidentally the best character in the series. Shortly after this occurred, his father Ozai attempted to claim Iroh's birthright, claiming that he and his children would be the best choice now that Iroh no longer has any heirs of his own. Angered by this, the current Fire Lord Azulon ordered that Zuko be killed to teach Ozai some humility and let him know the pain of losing a firstborn. Unwilling to see her only son die, Princess Ursa poisoned Azulon in his sleep and was subsequently banished, leaving Zuko without a mother. However, as years passed, Zuko became closer with his uncle Iroh and developed his sense of empathy even further. 2 years after the banishment of his mother, Zuko sat in on a war council with Iroh, Ozai, and several generals. During this time, he was told not to speak out, but when one of the generals suggested sacrificing a division of entirely new recruits in a diversionary tactic, Zuko spoke out a term and was immediately challenged to an Agni Kai, or fire duel. As Zuko prepared for the duel, he discovered that he was to fight his father instead of said general. Realizing this, he dropped to his knees, begging for forgiveness. Seeing this as a sign of weakness, his father burned Zuko, permanently scarring his face, and declared that he would learn respect, and that suffering would be his teacher. After this display, Ozai banished him from the Fire Nation and would only allow his return if he found the Avatar, a person who had been missing for nearly 100 years. At this point, it was believed that he was gone forever and he was on a complete fool's errand. So Zuko left with his uncle and became an outcast, declaring that he would find the Avatar and restore his honor. Zuko spent 2 years at sea searching for the Avatar, becoming angrier and more jaded with each passing day. At the beginning of the series, Zuko was no longer the happy, empathetic boy he once was, and was now the bitter, banished prince, beginning the series at Lawful Neutral in a quest to regain his honor. And that's just the beginning, and one of the reasons why people found this series so good. Throughout the 60 episodes that is Avatar: The Last Airbender, Zuko makes dozens of fascinating moral choices that wildly changes as his environment does. And that leads into one of the most common complaints I get about my series, is that people get confused on the term lawful. And it's honestly one of the more frustrating words when talking about Dungeons & Dragons and the alignment spectrum anyway. Lawful does not always mean that a character follows the law. Lawful is often given to characters that follow an ethical stance or do things based on some sort of moral code. Now, if Zuko is obsessed with anything in this series, it's
honor, 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 my honor, 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 honor.
Zuko commits most of the actions in this series because he feels it is the right thing to do in order to restore the honor he felt he lost when he was banished by his father. In his eyes, he does what he needs to do in order to restore it. To us, as the viewer, it is against common decency to try to capture a 12-year-old boy, even if that boy is basically a living god and the best character of the series. But to Zuko, this boy is the Avatar and is the enemy to his nation, and it's his sworn duty to capture and bring him in to face Fire Nation justice. However, Zuko is a character whose sense of morality changes wildly throughout the course of the series. In Season 1, most of his actions have to do with serving his country and his father. In Season 2, he changes to be more self-serving and doing what he needs to do to survive. And in Season 3, he has a completely different outlook altogether, something I'll discuss in the post-analysis section, so don't click off after all this is over. There's a lot to discuss here. However, for now, grab a snack, get a drink, and this is going to be a long, fun ride. And let's go. Hey folks, I'll make this quick. If the ding-ding portion of the episode seems weird, that's because we had to do a ton of things to it in order to make it work because YouTube's bots just wouldn't let me post it, and some of that is their fault, but it's also Viacom. For whatever reason, they didn't like me posting most of the Season 2 episodes, so in order to make sure that it was safe for YouTube, we had to do some kooky edits in some places, and that's just to get past the copyright bots. Thanks for understanding. More information on my Twitter if you want to know about it.
If I go with you, will you promise to leave everyone alone?
Zuko's first real act of the series is taking the Avatar and leaving the Water Tribe alone. Lawful Neutral.
We haven't found him yet.
The Avatar died 100 years ago. Unless you found some evidence that the Avatar is alive.
No.
Genuinely interesting conundrum here. Zuko knows that it is his duty as a Fire Nation citizen to do everything he can to capture the Avatar, but he lies to Commander Zhao so that way it optimizes his chances of capturing the Avatar, because in order to return from exile, he needs to be the one to capture Aang. Chaotic neutral.
Do it! That's it? it?
Okay, so most of you guys don't even know how amazing of a scene this is. An Agni Kai winner is declared not when the opponent can no longer fight or is killed, but when an opponent is burnt. When Zuko challenged Zhao, he even threatened giving him a permanent scar so that he would be humiliated as well.
Maybe you'd like one to match.
But instead, Zuko knows how much that scar weighs on him and how awful it is to be branded, and shows even someone as despicable as Zhao mercy by not giving him one. Lawful good. Zuko attacks Kyoshi Island in an attempt to find the Avatar. As he starts fighting, he begins destroying the town. This is arguably lawful evil, since when he first came into town, he had no intention of hurting civilians, but he does adopt a more reckless attitude as the fight continues. Neutral evil.
On second thought, why don't you take another few minutes? But be back at the ship in half an hour.
After getting a new lead on the Avatar from the last episode, Zuko redoubles his efforts into finding the Avatar. But after some minor convincing, he allows his uncle to relax. Then he goes to rescue Iroh when he got caught by the random Earth Kingdom squad. Neutral good.
There's nothing I can do. Do not follow the Avatar.
I'm sorry, Uncle.
Zuko, despite knowing he might get arrested, charges past the Fire Nation blockade for his honor. He then spends the rest of the episode trying to capture the Avatar. Lawful Neutral.
Try to understand. I need to capture him to restore something I've lost. My honor.
I know this is weird, but in this episode with the pirates, Zuko goes out of his way to humor Iroh and get his Pai Sho tile. He then makes an alliance with some pirates and honors his agreement with them, even if he has to be a little aggressive. He then captures Katara, but treats her with dignity and respect, only going after the Avatar and leaving who he believes is innocent out of it. Feel free to disagree, but I'm gonna say Zuko was largely lawful good.
The safety of the crew doesn't matter.
In this episode, Zuko puts the capture of the Avatar over the safety of his crew and orders them to steer their ship into a brewing storm. This gets so bad that it nearly causes a mutiny. After his crew learns about his backstory, they then begin to empathize with him, and after saving a helmsman that got into danger, he orders everyone to head into the safety in the eye of a storm. The episode ends with Zuko not pursuing the Avatar that day in order to give his crew a break. Lawful good. Aang gets captured by Zhao, and Zuko, disguised as the Blue Spirit, breaks him out in a daring and really cool escape sequence. This is not due to any altruism or duty, but strictly because he wants to capture the Avatar himself and restore his honor. They hit a snag as they were making their getaway, but Zuko holds Aang hostage in order to ensure their getaway. The episode ends with Zuko's identity revealed to Aang. Because Zuko is betraying his nation for his own sake, this action is chaotic neutral.
Your girlfriend run off on you?
It's not the girl I'm after. It's the bald monk she's traveling with.
Zuko hires a mercenary to track down the Avatar. It doesn't really work out for him. Not much to say about this episode except lawful neutral.
I didn't know you were skilled with broadswords, Prince Zuko.
I'm not.
Zuko straight up lies to Zhao after he discovers evidence that Zuko is the Blue Spirit. In retaliation, Zhao sends assassins after him, in which he survives but fakes his death so that he can sneak into the North Pole. Chaotic neutral.
We'll meet again. After I have the Avatar.
Zuko shares a short goodbye with Iroh. He's doing his best to stay on task and mind his uncle's feelings, but he's just not emotionally mature. Too conflicted and all that. I'm going to say lawful neutral because he goes back to trying to fulfill his duty to capture the Avatar by breaking into the North Pole.
No.
Yes. Hand him over, and I won't have to hurt you.
Zuko threatens Katara and then attacks her and Aang while they are at the most vulnerable. He makes a very clear threat, but then holds nothing back when attacking them. Lawful evil. Zuko challenges the waterbender in the middle of the night, in a blizzard. I'd say chaotic stupid, but it's actually neutral evil.
You're the Blue Spirit. You freed the Avatar.
I had no choice.
Zuko strikes out against Zhao for his attempted assassination and confesses to being the Blue Spirit, for some reason. Lawful neutral.
Take my hand!
Despite everything Zhao put him through, Zuko attempts to save him. Neutral good.
Hello, brother.
Zuko's sister Azula visits them and claims that their father regrets Zuko's banishment and asks them to come home. They believe her and nearly get on the ship, but one of the officers accidentally reveals that they plan to take the two prisoners. They fight their way out and become Fire Nation refugees. Chaotic neutral.
If the Earth Kingdom discovers us, they'll have us killed.
But if the Fire Nation discovers us, we'll be turned over to Azula.
Earth Kingdom it is.
So throughout this episode, Zuko and Iroh are on the run and need to be taken in by the kindness of Earth Kingdom strangers. They accept their help, but then Zuko steals their ostrich horse despite all that they've done for them. Neutral evil.
Dance!
After Iroh dances for the gold pieces, Zuko notices the guy who humiliated them also had twin swords. So he mugs him and reassumes his identity as the Blue Spirit. Neutral evil. Zuko then goes on a stealing spree, taking things from different people. At first it was survival crimes, but it quickly started becoming stealing in excess. Survival crimes would be neutral, but him wanting to live a high life while stealing from other working people is neutral evil.
We no longer have anything to gain by traveling together. I need to find my own way.
After being chastised by his uncle for the excessive stealing, Zuko decides to leave on his own to forge his own path. They part on neutral terms. So, yeah, I'm just gonna leave this up here. There we go. Zuko is starving and considers mugging the pregnant couple we see later with the gang at Serpent's Pass. Great through line with those two, by the way. Love it. But decides not to go through with it, noticing that the wife is pregnant. Neutral.
Not enough here for a hot meal. I can get you 2 bags of feed.
Zuko realizes it's important to feed those below you first and spends his last coins to feed his ostrich horse. Neutral good.
You throwing eggs at us, stranger?
No.
You see who did throw it?
No.
Zuko protects the kids from the very obvious bully soldiers by lying to them. Chaotic good.
Gonsu could use some help on the barn. Why don't you two work for a while, and then we'll eat.
Zuko doesn't want to take a free handout from this family, despite all he did for Lee earlier. Instead, when Mom offers a deal for him to work for his supper, he takes it. Even though he's just awful at doing it, he agrees. I don't care what you say, that's a man's attitude right there. Lawful good.
Keep in mind, these are dual swords. 2 halves of a single weapon.
Instead of scolding Lee for stealing his swords to play with, Zuko shows him the proper way to wield them and has a heart-to-heart. Neutral good.
You boys hear what the Fire Nation did with their last group of Earth Kingdom prisoners?
Dressed them up in Fire Nation uniforms and put them on the front line unarmed, way I heard it. Then they just watched.
You watch your mouth.
Zuko protects the family who just lost their eldest son to the war, beginning to understand the loss of it all. Neutral good.
I want you to have this. Read the inscription.
Made in Earth Kingdom.
The other one.
Never give up without a fight.
God, I love this episode. Just moments ago, we saw a flashback that Zuko got this as a gift from Iroh from when he invaded the Earth Kingdom, and it meant a lot to him. Zuko regifts this to the kid as a symbolic gesture and as a thank you for taking care of him. Honestly, this has tons of layers. This episode is so good, you guys. Neutral good.
It doesn't matter who I am, but I know who you are. You're not soldiers. You're bullies. Freeloaders abusing your power.
I can't really get over how good this episode is. So Zuko fights to free Lee after he learned that it was his knife that got him into trouble. He did this because he hates bullies and those that abuse their power, and the fact that they're ruining the lives of a family. Pure altruism. He then defeats the enemy Earthbender, breaking his disguise by using firebending. Neutral good.
My name is Zuko, son of Ursa and Fire Lord Ozai, Prince of the Fire Nation and heir to the throne.
Zuko announces to the whole village who he is and is rewarded with spite and hatred from them because of where he came from and despite all that he's done for them. Just a great way to end this really fantastic episode. Props to everyone who took part in this. Lawful Neutral.
You really want to fight me?
Yes.
Throughout this episode, Zuko has been tracking the gang and Azula. This ends up with him attacking both Azula and Aang in a 3-way brawl before teaming up with Team Abadar to take down Azula. Fun fact, this is the first time we've actually seen all 4 elements being bent on screen at once. And Boomerang. Chaotic neutral.
Get away from us!
Zuko, I can help.
Zuko lashes out rather than being helped by Katara and the gang. I'm gonna say chaotic neutral.
Azula did this to you. It was a surprise attack.
Zuko nurses Iroh back to health and makes him tea, trying to help him as best he can. Neutral good.
Why can't I do it? Instead of lightning, it keeps exploding in my face.
Zuko attempts to learn lightning bending this episode from Iroh, but because of his inner turmoil, he can't. He settles to learn the basics on how to redirect lightning instead, but he tries to take it to the extreme, like he always does, and challenges nature itself to shoot at him. Neutral for the first, chaotic neutral for the second.
You favor the White Lotus gambit.
Iroh meets with the White Lotus and arranges passage for them into Ba Sing Se. Zuko just kinda tags along as being impatient and rude. I'm just gonna say neutral. Zuko teams up with Jet to steal food for the refugees and for themselves. Chaotic good.
Want to join the Freedom Fighters?
Thanks, but I don't think you want me in your gang.
Zuko rejects Jet's invitation to join the Freedom Fighters. There's no malice or anything behind it, but he definitely doesn't want Jet to find out that he and Iroh were firebenders. Although...
These two men are firebenders!
Zuko and Iroh get work in a tea shop and try to adjust to a new life in Ba Sing Se. Jet attacks them one night and they need to defend themselves. Neutral twice. Zuko goes on a date and tries to give her a hot experience with his fingers. They have a good time. Neutral good.
Out of my way, skinny!
Zuko traps and threatens a Dai Li agent to tell him everything he knows about Late Laogai, lawful evil.
What do you plan to do now that you have found the Avatar's bison? Begin asking yourself the big questions. Who are you?
Zuko frees Appa from his prison in Lake Laogai and sorta gives up on his perceived destiny for her capturing the Avatar. I'm gonna say chaotic good.
What's happening?
Your critical decision. What you did beneath that lake. It was in such conflict with your image of yourself that you are now at war within your own mind and body.
Ah, I see the GM that's in charge of this campaign is playing by an old rule. Let me explain. You see, in early editions of D&D, whenever you had a serious alignment shift, you actually suffered penalties. In old editions, you suffered a level loss or a level reduction if you shifted alignments to something else. This explains why Zuko gets absolutely trashed in later fights. He lost a level due to an alignment shift. Dick move, GM.
It smells delicious. I'd love a bull, Uncle.
So a lot of you might be wanting me to make a big shift towards an alignment here, but no, absolutely not. While he had his existential dream a while ago, it's giving him a much more positive outlook. Nothing magical or big was done to change anything. In this moment, Zuko is choosing to be nice, kind, and looking on the positive side. So, neutral good in this regard, but I'm not making a big shift as this wasn't any sort of magical influence.
I'm thankful because you decided to share this special day with me. It means more than you know.
Aww.
I'm tired of running. It's time I face Azula.
What? Are you going to challenge me to an Agni Kai?
Yes, I challenge you.
No thanks.
Earlier, Zuko and Iroh were jumped by Azula in a setup. Instead of running away, Zuko chose to stay and fight, challenging her to an Agni Kai, lawful neutral.
The Fire Nation took my mother away from me.
I'm sorry. That's something we have in common.
Zuko apologizes for the crimes of his people to Katara, a person he's always considered to be an enemy, and relates to her. Neutral good. Zuko betrays the Avatar and his friends after Azula's temptation, and despite all the character development he's been through. He just took that level loss for nothing, I guess. Neutral evil.
I haven't seen him in 3 years, since I was banished.
So what?
So, I didn't capture the Avatar.
Who cares? The Avatar's dead. Unless you think he somehow miraculously survived.
Zuko is welcomed back home as a war hero, but is worried since he didn't fulfill his original goal. When asked if he believes the Avatar was dead, he lies about the spirit water he knows Katara has. Chaotic neutral.
I am proud of you, Prince Zuko. I am proud because you and your sister conquered Ba Sing Se. And I am proudest of all of your most legendary accomplishment. You slayed the Avatar.
What did you hear?
Azula told me everything.
Zuko simply lets the Fire Lord believe the lie that Azula told him about the Avatar. Granted, he realizes it would be worse for him if he contradicts this, but nevertheless, chaotic neutral.
I'm going in for a visit. You're going to stand guard here, and no one is going to know about this.
Zuko visits his uncle in prison, trying to justify his actions to both Iroh and himself. He ends up getting frustrated and smashing a chair. Chaotic neutral.
So, I hear you've been to visit your Uncle Fatso in the prison tower.
That guard told you.
No, You did, just now.
Okay, you caught me. What is it that you want, Azula?
Actually, nothing. Believe it or not, I'm looking out for you. If people find out you've been to see Uncle, they'll think you're plotting with him. Just be careful, dum-dum.
No alignment, I just genuinely like this scene. It's a nat 20 if you include the exchange between Mai and Azula earlier too. It sets up so many things.
I brought you some Komodo chicken. I know you don't care for it, but I figure it beats prison food. I need your advice.
Zuko goes to visit his uncle again despite Azula's earlier warnings. He brings him some better food and asks for his advice. He gets frustrated again, but it's still worth noting. Chaotic good.
The Avatar's alive. I want you to find him and end him.
Zuko hires a hitman to take out the Avatar. Lawful evil. Man, I'm getting so much use out of this thing.
It's gonna be great to hang out on the beach and do nothing.
Doing nothing is a waste of time. We're being sent away on a forced vacation.
Beach episode! Also, Zuko goes along with the vacation as per his orders.
Hey, beach bums. We're playing next. See that girl with the silly pigtails? When she runs toward the ball, there's just the slightest hesitation of her left foot. I'm willing to bet a childhood injury has weakened her. Keep serving the ball to her left and we'll destroy her and the rest of her team. Dismissed.
I know this is played for laughs, but Zuko and the girls pretty much obliterate the other team for no other reason than to show dominance. Although this is meant for comedy, it's definitely lawful evil.
Stop talking to my girlfriend.
Relax. It's just a party.
Zuko blows up at a random dude for talking to Mai. Chaotic evil.
The beach did help us learn about ourselves. I feel all smoothed. I'll always remember this.
You know what would make this trip really memorable?
After some intense conversations at the beach with the girls and Zuko sorting out some extremely complicated feelings, they decide to end the night by trashing Chan's house. Technically chaotic evil.
The final testament of Fire Lord Sozin.
Zuko spends this episode learning about the origins of his grandfather. He learns that he is descended from both Avatar Roku and Fire Lord Sozin.
You alone can cleanse the sins of our family and the Fire Nation.
At the moment, he doesn't really do anything with this information, but it leads him down the path to redeeming his family and himself. Just another great episode. Neutral.
So, how did it go?
When I got to the meeting, everyone welcomed me. My father had saved me a seat. He wanted me next to him. I was literally at his right hand. During the meeting, I was the perfect prince. The son my father wanted. But I wasn't me.
Zuko spent this entire episode wanting to be a part of the war meeting and was very upset when he discovered he wasn't invited. Throughout the course of Season 3, we see him slowly realize that fulfilling his family's dark plans goes entirely against his soul, which leads him to his next actions. Neutral.
I'm here to tell the truth.
Telling the truth during the middle of an eclipse. This should be interesting.
First of all, in Ba Sing Se, it was Azula who took down the Avatar, not me.
Why would she lie to me about that?
Because the Avatar's not dead. After I leave here today, I'm gonna free Uncle Iroh from his prison, and I'm gonna beg for his forgiveness. He's the one who's been a real father to me. But I've come to an even more important decision. I'm going to join the Avatar.
Zuko reveals to his father the truth about the fate of the Avatar, and then he swears to help Aang and his friends take the Fire Lord down. There's an amazing speech that Zuko has with him talking about how the war was wrong, and how the world is just worse for what the Fire Nation has done, and I would love to play it all here, but I'm pretty sure Viacom already wants to destroy this video, considering how much Avatar footage I'm showing. Either way, Zuko says that the way he needs to regain his honor and save the world is to join the Avatar. Lawful good.
Coward! You think you're brave enough to face me, but you'll only do it during the eclipse. Don't you want to know what happened to your mother?
As he is leaving, Zuko is distracted by talk of his mother, which catches him off guard enough to be attacked by Ozai. Chaotic neutral.
Uncle! Where's my uncle?
He's gone. He busted himself out. I've never seen anything like it. He was like a one-man army.
Awesome! Also lawful good for trying to save Iroh.
I thought I had lost my honor, and that somehow my father could return it to me. But I know now that no one can give you your honor. It's something you earn for yourself by choosing to do what's right. All I want now is to play my part in ending this war. And I know my destiny is to help you restore balance to the world.
In this episode, Zuko pledges his loyalty to the gang and understands that earning his honor means doing what's right and correcting his past mistakes, including trying to stop Combustion Man. Lawful good.
Listen, everybody. I've got some pretty bad news. I've lost my stuff.
Don't look at me. I didn't touch your stuff.
I'm talking about my firebending. I bet it's because I changed sides.
That's ridiculous.
Seriously, GM? This is the second time this campaign! And my audience gave me crap because I temporarily penalized one of my players because he waded around through polluted water with open wounds. Oh, but bullying Zuko gets a free pass? Okay.
That's why my firebending was so weak before. Because for so many years, hunting you was my drive. It was my purpose. So when I joined you, I lost sight of my inner fire. But now, I have a new drive. I have to help you defeat my father and restore balance to the world.
I hate to say it, but this episode is kind of redundant. He already went through this with his father in episode 51. It's an excuse to get Aang and Zuko together, and it's definitely lawful good. It's just kind of unnecessary.
If someone was captured by the Fire Nation, where would they be taken? When the invasion plan failed, some of our troops were taken. I just want to know where they might be.
In this two-parter, Zuko goes with Sokka to the mass security Fire Nation prison called the Boiling Rock. There they get trapped and start trying to figure out ways to break free. They discover Suki and Sokka's dad while in prison and break them out. Sokka said that he wants to do this to regain his honor, and Zuko decides to go with him. However, this is so incredibly dangerous to them, and it has such a high failure rate, I really have a hard time placing this under lawful good, since if Zuko is captured, the plan to defeat Ozai is totally screwed since Aang no longer has a firebending teacher. Neutral good for helping Sokka, but chaotic good on top of that just for how reckless this actually is.
What are you doing? Go ahead. I'll hold them off. I think this is a family visit.
Zuko uses himself as bait to try to cover the gang's escape. Lawful good here since he is reacting to a situation rather than putting himself into it like the Boiling Rock episodes.
I need to borrow Appa.
Why? Is it your turn to take a little field trip with Zuko?
Yes, it is.
Zuko helps Katara track down the man who killed her mother this episode, and it's one of my favorites because of how intense it actually gets.
Happening to me!
He says it's to bring Katara peace and justice, even though everyone thinks it's a bad idea. She ends up not going through with it, but Zuko was totally on board to straight up ice a dude. Chaotic good.
My sister! What are you doing here?
You caught me. Wait! What's that? I think it's your honor.
Where?
She escaped.
This episode freaking rules.
It doesn't even look like that.
Zuko goes ballistic on Aang for shirking his training, not realizing that he didn't plan on taking the Fire Lord before Summer's End. I'd say attacking him like this instead of, using your words is chaotic good.
Then when you figure out a way for me to beat the Fire Lord without taking his life, I'd love to hear it.
Aang, don't walk away from this.
Let him go. He needs time to sort it out by himself.
No one understands better than Zuko, wrestling with the idea of fighting with what you think is right and what is actually right. This is just right? Lawful good.
I know you must have mixed feelings about seeing me. But I want you to know, I am so sorry, Uncle. I am so sorry and ashamed of what I did. I don't know how I can ever make it up to you, but How can you forgive me so easily? I thought you would be furious with me.
I was never angry with you. I was sad because I was afraid you lost your way.
Wait, you want to be Fire Lord? Fine, let's settle this. Just you and me, brother. The showdown that was always meant to be. Agni Kai!
You're on.
Zuko accepts Azula's challenge to Agni Kai so that no one else will get hurt. Lawful good.
I'll show you lightning.
Azula fires her lightning bolt at the onlooking Katara in order to trick Zuko into a vulnerable position. It works, and Zuko takes the lightning bolt in her place and redirects it elsewhere. Neutral good.
Today, this war is finally over. We can get it back on the right path and begin a new era of love and peace.
All hail Fire Lord Zuko!
God, this series is so good. I had a hard time sitting down and writing the script because I kept accidentally watching the series instead of working on the video like I was supposed to. Big thank you to my assistant editor Maurice for his work. However, Zuko is arguably one of the most fascinating characters ever because of how much he drastically changes. This is the character arc Kylo Ren tried to be, and what he should have been drawing inspiration from. Zuko started this series as a lawful neutral character, but even then that's not entirely accurate. If we had started his alignment when he was a child, he would have been lawful good, no doubt about it. However, throughout the course of his life, he evolved and changed, and his perspectives switched drastically depending on what situation he was put into. And though he committed some of the worst betrayals you could possibly commit in this series, his redemption arc is almost universally beloved by all. Zuko was given tons of opportunities to do the right thing, but repeatedly kept going back to the dark side, and given his upbringing, it is reasonable to understand why.
I'm just saying that considering his messed up family and how he was raised, he could have turned out a lot worse.
I think this show does a better job of most in showing that most people are reflections of their environment, and while your disposition, happiness, and even satisfaction factor into the physiology of how you were born, you still need to be put into situations that let you thrive and become the best you that you could possibly be. And this reflects the Eastern philosophies of the show. Zuko was born into a family who are second and third generation warmongers. His life revolved around power, combat, and conquest, and their quest to take over the world,
of course,
did immense psychological damage on the entire family. None of them were born monsters. While he was raised by his mother to the point of almost Oedipus complexity, he had the best chance to escape the spiral of hatred that their family seemed to be obsessed with, because she instilled in him a strong sense of what was right and wrong. It is very clear to see that without the positive role model of his mother, Zuko quickly turned into a jaded villain. Were it not for the companionship of Iroh, Zuko would have likely turned out to be a complete monster. Hell, even Iroh was said to have a complicated past, and he laid siege to a city and plundered its treasures for over 600 days. His turning point was very clearly the moment his son died, and he realized that the mission statement of the Fire Nation was completely folly. His environment during the siege and the pressure of the death of his son gave him his big alignment shift. Azula, the best character in the series, was so obsessed with her power and might in Season 3 that it showed both tragically and hilariously how inept she was at normal situations. She literally could not function in a peaceful environment and went insane when just a small thing didn't go her way. If you really want to deep dive into her psychosis, I highly suggest watching The Psychology of Azula by Hello Future Me, once you're done binge watching my videos, of course. However, Zuko, after a while, realized on his own what it meant to do the right thing, and it was the right people leading him along that way that effectively changed his mind. While Zuko was this honorable antagonist in Season 1, he became much more irrational and underhanded as he went into Season 2, switching to more chaotic and neutral acts, and it's perfectly understandable why he did this even if we don't agree with his methods. By the time Season 3 came around, we knew enough about Zuko philosophically, emotionally, and ethically to understand that behaving in underhanded, debaucherous ways did not properly suit him, and it showed when his firebending started to fail. I joked about the DM thing, but it's still a very good representation of his inner conflict. As a side note, I also love that this is a story that could only be told in the 3-season length that it did. We needed to see him act in this length of time to understand all the things he was capable of, but also the internal conflict he had. Now personally, I didn't care for the whole bloodline story with him being descended from both Avatar Roku and Fire Lord Sozin. It seemed a little ham-fisted at this point, but it became a physical and physiological psychological representation of what he was going through. He was torn by the might makes right mentality of his family and the strong moral code showed to him by his mother and uncle. Which is amazing because even the part of the show I liked the least demonstrated how good of an arc his character was. So in short, Zuko is a character that was defined by his honor. He begins the series by having it taken away from him, and while halfway through he performs dirty and underhanded things in order to get it back, in the end he realized that obtaining honor is doing what's right even when it's incredibly difficult. His reunion with Iroh is so emotional not because the characters are sad or they're crying or they're hurt or whatever, but because this misguided boy, who had every incentive in the world to continue to profit off of suffering and taking the easy way out, instead rejected all of that and suffered what he had to, not because it was the right thing to do, but it was the honorable thing to do.